Good morning again, students. I'd like to quickly show you how to produce a fractal-based pattern using some graphic software. So in this case, I'm going to use Adobe Illustrator, which is going to work really well if you've got access to it. You could certainly use anything, Microsoft Paint, online drawing programs, Photoshop, anything really that you can illustrate or draw with will work. Preferably if it can make nice shapes easily like Illustrator can, then that's going to work really well for you. So what I've done here is I've just been using circles to create some geometric forms. So let's just zoom in on that for a second. And what I've done is just taken a circle and each time I draw it, I divide the dimension by half. So that gives that self-similarity thing at different dimensions that's talked about as kind of one of the cores of fractal math patterns. All right, so how I did this is I took the ellipse tool, and if I just click once with my mouse, I can actually tell the tool how large of a circle that I need to make. So in this case, I'm going to start with 200 by 200. And I'll do the same process again. So just clicking once. And as I said, for my math, I divided by half each time, which is just nice and easy. You don't have to do that. You could choose a different number system for your ratio if you'd like to. Each level that I go down, I'm going to change the color just for aesthetic purposes, just so it looks interesting. Also not required. The whole thing in one monotone looks pretty interesting. So I'm just kind of doing that for fun more than anything. All right, so I could keep doing that process, which is how I made this object up above. In this case, to speed things up a little bit, I'm just going to copy both those circles and I'm going to shrink them down together, and I'm holding shift so that my proportions stay constrained. And I'm just going to shrink those down until I feel like it's approximately half in terms of the height there. So that's doing it by eye. All right, which I think would work. I could do that whole stage again. So I could copy paste all of those circles now and shrink them down. And again, one of the beautiful things about working with Illustrator is that it's actually capable of handling all these different scales. So you can see how quickly I've got a whole bunch of circles scaling down like that just by eye. Now, one little trick here is that if I'm working with a whole bunch of objects in a line like this, I might want to select them all and go up to the top of my screen here and click on Vertical Align tool, okay, which is just going to make sure that they're all sitting right on the same axes. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool to me. And again, if I zoom in, right, I can see that kind of repeated pattern happening. So it's quite easy with software to start to see that kind of fractal world unfolding. All right, now what I did to create these other shapes is I would just copy this whole group of circles, hold shift to rotate on a perfect, basically 180-degree axis. And now I've got a group of multiples like that. And then I think you can see where this is going. Now I can basically just continue that same process, right? Rotating, overlaying, copy pasting. All right. And in fact, actually, I really like how that one's looking just as a, whoops, with a, with just two axes instead of 6, which are 4, what I did up here. So let's just go check out these other ones. I'm just going to leave that to the side. So this is just this is the result of copy and pasting, just like you saw. And then if I take this entire object and copy and paste it, see I scaled it down a little bit here, but this is starting to take that whole object and copy paste it and then create new groups and copy paste those. And of course you can imagine that I can then do that whole thing again, right? I can copy paste a whole group like that in order to build my shape out. All right, so tons of fun, fairly easy. Just like when I showed my other options there, I think it's wise for you to not really necessarily go into this design with a end game in mind that you know exactly what it's going to look like, but rather just to start playing with those shapes and playing with those geometries and kind of play more intuitively and see where things go. So for instance, what I'm doing right now on screen, like this is not planned. So this square pattern that's emerging within the circles, I'm just doing that because I like how it looks, right? So that just emerged from play. All right, so tons of fun, fairly straightforward. Do be looking online at examples of fractals.